Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to day 120 of the Chronological Read Through the Bible. Today's reading and commentary starts in 2 Samuel chapter 19, verse 31 through chapter 21. Now, Absalom has, of course, met with his death. Joab and his men found Absalom hanging in the tree by his hair, and they speared him to death. They then took his body and buried it in a hole and poured rocks over the top of it. In a sense, even though a rebellious child was to be stoned to death by Old Testament law, this is almost a picture of that because they still buried him under stones. Now David is free to return to Jerusalem, and there's a little bit of a trek to be made because of his current location. He's on the other side of the Jordan. And the first place that they come to is Gilgal. And if you'll remember, I've pointed out Gilgal in the past. It's a place sometimes that we forget, but you will see Gilgal a number of times throughout the scriptures. And it is really a pivotal place for the nation of Israel, but sometimes is lost in our study of the scriptures. Well, this, of course, is the place where the standing stones were that were taken out of the river Jordan by Joshua and the tribes as they came out. So it's really a place of remembrance for the nation, a place to focus on God's promises and God's past miracles. And this is where David comes back and is reanointed. It's not that he had ceased to be the king, but this is really a symbolic gesture that's being made before all of the peoples of Israel. However, a situation will grow, and it's almost hilarious other than the blood that ends up being shed. And that is the people of Judah versus the other 10 tribes. And I know you're going to say, well, what are the 11th? The tribe of Benjamin's kind of silent in this, partly because there's still a number of people in the tribe of Benjamin that supported Saul as king. And it's like for 1 minute they will be supporting David, and the next minute they will be trying to create this background rebellion. But the tribe of Judah and the other 10 tribes of Israel begin to basically go back and forth in a little battle of like, who's going to honor David? And it's like, well, why is it for you, Judah, to honor David? And it's like, well, he's from our tribe. And we didn't know that you wanted to be here at Gilgal to honor him. This, though, is about a much greater underlying problem. And it really goes back to what Abner and Mephibosheth, Saul's son, was trying to do when they were basically assuming the throne of the nation. They created this division and this rebellion, and it made the nation unstable. Where David was able to unite the nation for a time period, it would not remain that way. And under Solomon, the nation would remain united, but under Rehoboam, Solomon's son, it would end up being divided permanently, really until the end of times, and that time has not yet fully come. But this really civil war ends up breaking out. I want to go back to remind you, and I pointed this out, this is so much all just a spill out, just to all this problems that's come from David's sin with Bathsheba and the killing of Uriah, her husband. This is so sad how the sin, even though it ends up being confessed and repented for, it still is fallout from that. The kingdom is unstable at this point. Joab is David's general, is really not in favor, or they're not in the full unity that they would have been. And a lot of this is because Joab is, I would say, he's willing to make the hard decisions that David is reluctant to make. And I believe that David is being led by the Lord in his decisions, and maybe Joab isn't. From a secular standpoint, we would see Joab. He's saying we can't have these rebellious people left. They must be dealt with and finished off. And that's really his motives. He's a man of action, and David is a man of grace. And which one's right or wrong in some of this, it is hard to see, because David is clearly at times led by the Lord, and other times he's led by his emotions. And we never really get the sense of Joab seeking the Lord. Well, as we know, there ends up being Sheba, the rebellious leader, and a whole little battle that you would have just read about ensues with that. But it's interesting that when he ends up fleeing to this fortified city, how quickly the inhabitants of that city turn on him, all led really by a woman who goes out to meet with Joab to basically broker a peace deal. She's like, why destroy our city? What are you here for? And when Joab says who he has come for, she's like, no problem, we'll deal with it. We'll give you his head. Imagine, this doesn't sound like your typical Sunday morning sermon, does it? Where the head of this man is thrown over the wall to the Israel army. But that's exactly how it comes to an end. Well, brothers and sisters, I do hope that your Bible reading is going well, that you're able to continue with this. I'm going to soon be back on station, and I'll be able to have a little bit more in-depth commentary for you each day. But I do appreciate you having joined in. Hopefully my audio's not been too bad. I just want to do this little bit of housekeeping here. I'll try to improve it for when I'm on the go, but sometimes there's a lot of outside interference that I can't deal with. So I do appreciate you sticking with me through this time. Tomorrow you will discover that you will be 1/3 of the way through this year's Bible reading. So if you've continued in reading through it every day, we're now 1/3 of the way. And I hope that you're able to continue with that. And if you're just now starting, don't get discouraged. Keep going. If you had fallen behind, keep going. Reading of the scriptures is so important for your daily life. Well, brother and sister, I hope everything's going well for you. Until tomorrow, God bless.